welcome or welcome back to the Feel Your Feelings podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Makanjuola, and today I am excited to be joined by Micah Dawanyi. He is a two-time published author, artist, and a master's student based in South Florida. And I'm so grateful to have him on today for the Game Changers series. This is a brand new series on this podcast. He's my first guest, and I think he's a game changer. Someone reached out to me actually through my DMs, which are open, and on my email, and they're like, "Hey, like, you should talk to Micah. He's a speaker. He just spoke at this event, and I think that he would be great to have on your podcast. He's a Gen Zer, and he talks about mental health and youth issues and sports. Please have him on." I'm like, can we connect you with him? And I'm like, yes, definitely. So shout out to the agency that connected us. But Micah, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I was glad we got connected, through the agency. And as soon as I saw the name of your podcast, I was like, okay, this is like what I'm interested in. And I got to look through a couple of episodes. I love the last one too with the author. I thought that was,
from my hometown, well, birthplace, Arlington, Texas. So thank you.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. And I'm really glad to have you. So with this whole series of Game Changers, some people are like, is this just for athletes, sports and mental health? To be honest, I'm still figuring it out myself. However, I think your journey is a catalyst because you started off as an athlete and now you're in the creative space. And I think I want to talk to people that anyone can be a game changer, whether you're an athlete or an actor or a musician or whatever. So I definitely want to broaden out that theme of what it means to be a game changer. But we're gonna have some questions for you regarding like what it means to you to be a game changer. But before that, we're gonna do like a pregame chat. So a little backstory about you. So you played soccer. Do I have that right? Okay. And when you played when you were like a teen, you're 21 now, right?
22 now.
22. Okay, so I'm really curious to know, like, what is your relationship like with sports now after being so immersed in it as a teen? Because I read that you earned your first national coaching license at 16 years old in your county in Florida. So that's a huge, major accomplishment. I know you had like pro dreams. So tell me about like kind of where you stand now with soccer after being so like accomplished as a teenager.
So I actually think I have a better relationship with soccer now than I did when I was in the sport. I think on an athletic journey, often the sport becomes your entire identity.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at least for me, when it was taken away from me, I had to figure out who I was as a and so I think now having some distance, I've just been able to add so much depth to my character and just become Micah Dawanyi, the individual who has a family, who's a son, who's a brother, who cares about X, Y, and Z. And I just feel like I'm a better, more wholesome, well-rounded person, and just more secure in who I am. I don't think I need like when I was playing, I think I needed to do certain things to believe in myself more, to feel like I had more value in the world, whether that be get an assist for today or score a goal or win that trophy. And now I'm like, I have a much more healthy relationship with myself. I still appreciate soccer and what it represented in my life. It taught me discipline. It taught me how to work hard, how to be a teammate, and how to work with other people. But I think like you said, I'm nationally licensed, so I still run clinics sometimes just to help out my community and work on different projects. And I still watch. Last season, my favorite soccer team stressed me out all year long. It's Liverpool. It's in England.
Okay, I've heard of it.
Yeah, and last year we had a bad season, and then
Actually,
I was so
my shirt, the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Yeah. So that's been my team since I was like 5 or 4, and so I still watch all of our games. I keep up with the soccer world. Right now, I'm in Miami, and right now we just signed Messi, who's like the biggest in the world, who signed to Inter Miami. So I'm loving
World
what that.
champ.
Yep. So I'm loving what that's doing for like the soccer culture down here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still tapped in with soccer, but I think my relationship with the sport is much healthier now because I don't. There's no like unhealthy attachment. It's just like a genuine love, but I'm still Micah Dawanyi in other areas of my life as well. So it's good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When I was a little kid, I wanted to play tennis. If you had asked me when I was like 7 years old, I would have said I wanted to be a professional tennis player like Venus or Serena, Venus and Serena. And I got into it and started, I picked up my first racket when I was 7, and then again when I was 15. So I had varsity high school athlete dream. So you can imagine how that turned out. I was bullied for sure. But my question for you is what was 8-year-old Micah's dream?
Oh, good question. Probably to become a professional player at that time.
Soccer
Um,
player.
yeah, I'd say because yeah, when I first started playing when I was how old was I? Maybe 6. It's funny, I'm originally from Maryland, and when I lived in
Mhm.
Maryland years of my life, I refused to play. My dad was big into soccer. My mom was a track star,
Mhm.
and I was athletic, but
Yeah.
and actually my older sister played soccer before me when we were still in Maryland, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch her. I don't want to get involved.
Okay.
And then Florida, I don't know what changed in my mind, but I just decided to play, and so I played recreational for 2 years, and then and this is not to brag, but like people started to have an issue with how many goals I was scoring in rec, and they were like, "You need to go to like a higher level where you can be challenged because this is not doing anything for you." So I joined an academy, and then that level there was really high. So I think at 8, I was in that academy and I was working with all these really talented players my age. So I
Yeah.
probably would have grown and be a professional player at that time. So yeah, it's changed so much now, but yeah, that's where I was at 8.
That's awesome. I still enjoy, well, let me not lie, because tennis can be boring to watch sometimes, but I still enjoy watching like the Olympics every 4 years when it comes on. And next year it's going to be in Paris. So I'm looking forward to that. And they do have a volunteer program, by the way. So I'll slide you some more information about that if you're interested in volunteering or have friends that are interested in volunteering. So I think that like 8-year-old or 7-year-old part of me is still like there. That's like, yeah, like sports, like, yeah. But physically, I'm not there anymore. I'm just like, no.
I get it.
Uh,
I get it.
okay, so let's kind of transition into your creative side. So you are a writer, also. You're an author, a published author, might I add, and you have a book called Battle Scars and Blossoms. So I checked out a little bit about it. You have like a Spotify playlist, which is really cool, which I think, I need to listen to because I'm really into music as well. What is your vision for Battle Scars and Blossoms?
So it's a book about it's a coming of age story for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a book that really dives into the emotional nuances of a mental health journey. I think there's so much conversation right now about mental health, which
Yep.
I love. But
Yes.
there's really large stigmas around mental health that I see every day in every aspect of my life. And so I was in school studying health science and psychology doing my undergrad degree. And I was just learning about mental health and about how do we have those conversations. And I was really interested in figuring out how to disarm people and how to make the conversations more normal. And so
Yeah.
I was like, my first book was a nonfiction. It was a book where I was talking as Micah Dawanyi, and I was like, I don't want to do that again because I don't want to preach at people and tell people like you're living your life wrong. You need to
Mm-hmm.
care about me. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I myself with a story, a fiction story, you can just create a world a fictionalized world and you can immerse people in that world. So in Battle Scars, the main character is Noel, and he just arrived at college, and he's
So
had
like
some
18,
19.
18, 19.
Actually,
Okay.
he just turns 19 at the beginning of the book, and he has some pretty serious trauma that he hasn't dealt with, financial issues that he had growing up, broken relationships with his family members, and then a traumatic death with someone close to him. And he has this very common, I don't care, I'm just going to move past it mentality and not really work to heal. And then through these specific events that take place his freshman year, he is forced to really find his peace and really work through his trauma and also tackle the generational cycles of trauma and how
Mm-hmm.
his mindset about mental health has influenced how he perceives his own mental health journey. And he has to
Mm-hmm.
work through. And so it's called Battle Scars and Blossoms because it's really about taking our battle scars and making something beautiful out of them and learning. And so you get to follow his journey and just learn about why you should care about taking care of your mind. That was the ultimate message. So yeah, I put that out last year, and then it's been pretty fun to go to schools and read with the kids
Yeah.
and interviews and get to talk about an important message. So yeah.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. I also am into writing. I had this thing when I was younger. It was like the three A's. I either want to be an actress, an author, or an athlete.
Mm.
And obviously one didn't one didn't turn out. But author dreams, I think I still have some author aspirations. And actress, because I feel like I have a flair for the dramatic. This leads me to my next question. I think you are an author, a producer, a speaker, a coach, etc. But who is Micah? How would you describe yourself?
Oh, that's a it's so funny because I was just having a conversation with my friend, and I was saying that often when we are introduced to other people in social settings, you
Mm-hmm.
are like, this is my profession and this is what I do.
My
And
title.
and it'd be really cool to just actually talk about ourselves more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a great question. I mean, I'm definitely an introvert. That's a fact.
Relatable. Relatable. Me too.
I'm a really laid back guy. My mom's actually told me, and this is not a lie, you could ask her, that when I came out of the womb, I didn't say anything. I was just chilling, and the doctor had to tap me to make sure I was breathing, and that's
Right.
her. Oh, okay, he's fine. But my mom said, you've always just been chill, just like right here, laid
Mellow.
back. So that's who I am. I'm a family man. I'm really big on family. I have family all over the world. Some here in the US, some in scattered parts of the US, and then some in other continents. So I'm really big on family. I'm into films, I'm into music, um, I'm into hanging out with my friends, chilling. I'm just a laid back guy. I like to
Yeah.
keep things really simple. I think so much of life is crazy that I try to, with my own actions, I try to just keep everything calm. So yeah, I think that's who I am.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so for me, like I'm an introvert. I identify as an introvert as well, but it's weird because my star sign is a Leo. Most people associate Leos with being loud, center of attention, obnoxious, and things like that. But that's not true at all. That's kind of far from it. I'm very much humble or try to be. But yeah, I'm like it's all relative though. But I am proud Leo with Leo season. But yeah, I love that. Thank you for, describing yourself. So what inspires your creative flow?
Um, I think my own life. Whenever I'm thinking of creative work, I always like to reflect on my life. So, like, my first book was a reflection of what I was feeling in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
Book is a reflection of what I was feeling about what it means to take care of your mind and what it means to talk about mental health. And then the stuff I'm writing these days is a reflection of what I've been going through in the last couple of years. So I think I'm always looking at my own life because it's important for you to center yourself with your art if you're always doing stuff for other people, I feel like that's where passion becomes a disconnect. So I always
Mm-hmm.
like to keep process. But then I also look at the world and what's going on and what do we need to talk about more. I'm always asking myself that specifically. What do we need to talk about more? What is not talked about in the right context? What is not talked about with the right modern day context? And how can I help people understand things? I think we tell stories. I actually heard this quote from Hugh Jackman. Shout out to Hugh Jackman.
Shout out.
Um, and he was talking about the reason why we tell stories is to open our hearts instead of just reading objective, monolithic like newspapers. It's like we
Mm-hmm.
open our ideas and different elements with stories. And so I think I really like to do that with my own work. So that takes looking at the world, looking at what's going on, looking at what people are struggling with. I love to talk about difficult things, which sounds weird because it's like people could be like, well, isn't that kind of controversial? But I love it. I love to talk about things that make people uncomfortable, but that need to be talked about. So I think it's a lot of reflecting and a lot of thinking about those elements before I can kind of get creative.
That's good. And you talked about wanting to talk about difficult things. What's next for you?
So I'm working on two projects right now, two books. I have I have some ideas. Right now I'm drawing because I like to do my own cover arts. So right now I'm
Cool.
drawing and that helps me to figure out the themes that I want to identify with. I'd love to talk about a different element of mental health. I
Mm-hmm.
think my first book, it was grief and it was just that initial step into facing your traumas. But as you probably know, there's like a million different subcategories of mental health that you
Exactly.
can. So I think I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk. I think I want to find another little pocket of mental health to touch on in a different way. So definitely another book that deals with difficult topics, another book that has a journey that you can follow and that ties into an important message that I think people will be able to relate to. So yeah, I'm working as hard as I can. Part of it is leaving it up to God to inspire me, but
Mm-hmm.
part of work is this delicate balance because you don't want to just wait and sit around, but you
Mm-hmm.
also have to align. So it's a difficult thing I'm trying to get a hold of right now, but I should have it soon.
That's amazing that you say that. And I just want to like make a quick side note is that I was thinking like all day today of like kind of I was watching a YouTube video too of how like God says to be still, but faith without works is dead. So it's like which one should I lean towards? And it's an individual thing. I think for me, I'm leaning more towards the be still because it's like the faster I run, it's like the more I stay in place. For me, is how I feel. So that's really interesting that you brought that up. So I really love that. Um,
Yeah. And the thing is
yeah.
too, you can run in the wrong direction.
Cool.
And then I'm working so hard, but you're not
Mm-hmm.
even doing that you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So being still is good sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm really big right now on working smart instead of just working hard.
Hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to give like an NBA example, I was watching this documentary and there was this like 7 foot basketball player who was like, yeah, I put up 300 3-pointers a day. And then his trainer was like, you're not gonna be shooting 3-point shots because you're 7 foot. You're gonna be like more inside shooting close range. So you were working hard doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
life we have to think about that as well, is that you could be like, oh, I'm grinding, but it's like it's not even going anywhere. So it actually could be better to be still and calculate before making a big move. So
Yeah.
I think for all of us to consider.
That's real. That's real. I love that. Okay, so now we're about to get into these game changers questions. All right. So what makes you a game changer? Oh, I forgot to ask, are you ready? Are you
I'm
ready?
ready.
Good, good. What makes you a game changer?
I think my ability to execute. I want to say all of this humbly as well, because
No, talk your ish, Micah. Talk your ish.
hey, I just want to make sure. But I think my ability to execute. When I was at my last not book tour, what's the word? Book club. And I was talking with the lady who put it together, and she was like, out of every 50 people that want to write a book, only like three are gonna try, and then only one out of that three is actually gonna finish it. And so she
Mhm.
was giving me kudos for actually saying I want to do X, Y, and Z and actually seeing it through. And I think that's one of my strong suits is that when I put a plan into motion, I'm very good at looking at the end goal and figuring out how to execute. And I think that in itself, just seeing your work all the way through will make you a game changer. And that's for whoever is whatever field you're in. If you could just see your stuff through, and even if you have to go through every single difficult emotion, just see it through. That will make you a game changer in itself because then you'll have tangibles that you can actually show for yourself. So I think for me, I'm always looking at how do I execute and how can I execute to the highest level that I can. So I think that's probably what makes me a game changer. Also, maybe my versatility. I think Gen Zers are now in like multiple different fields, you know, like you'll have people that are like, yeah, I'm like a computer science guy, but then I also do content creation and I do
Yeah,
X, Y,
multi hyphenates. Mm-hmm.
you know. I think that as well is what makes me a game changer is that I do a lot of I have a lot of slashes to my titles.
Yeah.
I say those two things.
Game changing advice that you have received.
So somebody once told me, I mean, it's kind of like I feel like you hear it all the time, but somebody once told me to take calculated risks. And they put it in this context of like people play it safe all the time and still end up in turmoil, struggling, unsatisfied. So if that's a possibility on either end of the stick, you might as well try something daring, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And when I thought of that advice, I was thinking of I like to watch late night shows like Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, like with my favorite celebrities and stuff, right? And when I listen to them talk, like and Jimmy or whoever is like, so like, where did it all start for you? And they talk about their beginnings. They always talk about doing these really unorthodox, illogical things to get to where they are. And I'm not saying to anybody like, oh, just start wilding out. I'm not saying that, but sometimes the most logical, the most straight and narrow path will lead to complacency. And sometimes you
Mm,
gamble, you know, and I think even my parents are really encouraging of that. They're like, especially because I don't have a family yet, they're like, you don't have to worry about like how you're gonna feed, you know, your child. So this is the time to just take risks because
mhm.
I have no like what's the word? Attachments to I have like, you know, family and friends and things like that, but they're like you have no like
Obligations.
obligations to like a family and things like that. So I'm really big on that. And I'm really big on encouraging other people to take risks. When I was even writing Battle Scars and Blossoms, the book, I was thinking about getting a new job with more hours
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to just have more financial safety, I guess. I don't like to worry about money because it's one of the biggest stressors in the world. And so
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I should get more hours so I can just be a little more comfortable. But I knew if I did that, I wasn't going to be able to dedicate as much time to writing my book. And so I ended up taking a leap of faith and just writing my book and keeping my other job, which still brought money in, but I had more time to write. And I mean, so many beautiful things have happened just from that risk. I was talking to this lady in the UK, actually, no idea how she knows me. And she was saying that she had a newborn son and she had bought my book and was looking at, there's this line in the book where the main character's mom is talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, the greatest thing you can give your child is a childhood that they don't have to heal from. And she said, when she heard that line in the book, she was like, I have to think about raising my child differently now. I don't want to continue those generational cycles. And she was like, if I never picked up your book, I wouldn't have even thought of that maybe. And so I look at, I've had like several of those moments, and I look at those like beautiful human connections that have happened because of my writing, and I'm like, this was well worth the risk. You know, this as opposed to like me clocking in 10 hours a week more. This was well worth the risk. The risk.
So true. So true. Because you put your investment into yourself, and you can't lose when you bet on yourself. I feel like genuinely.
Yeah.
Like with this podcast, that's what I try to do, is like bet on myself. Because if no one else is going to care for this as much as I do. I heard a YouTuber, shout out to Miss Latoya Okia on YouTube. She's like my spiritual mentor, but she's like, nobody's gonna care about Latoya Okia as much as I care about Latoya. And I'm like, she's so right. Like with anything you do, you have to put your passion behind it, or else it's dead.
Yeah.
Honestly. And it's so true about taking risks too. I don't know if you saw this new podcast episode that Drake was on this podcast. It was just so random. He was like sitting in a bed, and she was sitting in the same bed, and they were recording a podcast, and the conversation was just so random. It wasn't even a conversation. It was just like, it was weird. And I was like,
It's it's
we people get degrees to do this kind of stuff, and here she is like asking this man like these kind of, I guess, silly questions, you know? And really all it took was a thought, a mindset. Like I could do an idea, right? I could do this idea, you know, this podcast episode with Drake, and she made it happen. And I'm like, here I am overthinking, and here she is just making it look effortless. You know, anything is truly uh possible if you put your mind to it. So now I'm shooting my shot.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Should, because honestly, what I always say to myself to make things seem less serious is I'm like, what a floating rock in space.
In space, in
None
outer
of that,
space.
like none of like all the overthinking is not, what a floating rock in space. Like everything else is like perception in our minds a lot of times. Like just do it.
Yeah,
So whatever you want to do, just do it.
I love that. Okay, next question in the Game Changers questions is, what is who? No, 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 not what is. Who is one of your biggest role models, and why?
One of my biggest role models, I mean, of course I could give the typical like, oh, my mom answer, but I'm gonna give one that everybody else would know. One of my biggest role models is Chadwick Boseman, who I know when he was around. He's my favorite actor. I watched like all of his interviews, watched all his films, even before the Black Panther.
Wakanda forever.
Even yeah, shout out to Wakanda. Even before that, I watched all his stuff. And I was just, especially now, me being a young Black creator, and
Yeah.
him being an artist. He was a writer, director, actor. I love the artistic integrity that he applied to his work. He wasn't just, when he was taking roles, he was thinking about how he was going to represent himself to the world. And I think that kind of artistic integrity is lacking today. I think, I mean, you do have it in certain avenues, and it's great, but I think that really stood out to me was how much thought he put into his roles and what he was going to be doing, how he'd be perceived, things like that. And he always carried himself with integrity. I read in an interview that one of his last films he did, he found out about the gender pay disparity between him and his female co-star.
Yeah.
And he paid out of his pocket for her to have a better salary.
Yeah, I read about that.
Shouldn't have had to do that because I feel like a studio exec should be in charge of that. But just the fact that his heart was in that place is just like, that man was just leading his life with so much honor and integrity. And often in creative spaces, you see people just wild out and become very immoral. And so I think for myself, I was really inspired by the way he just led his life. And I want to lead my life with that same type of integrity and just be someone that people respect and people think of as an honorable person.
Yeah, facts. And you actually answered that my next question, which is, what makes that person a game changer?
Yeah,
So
those things,
for sure.
just, I was so sad when he passed. I
Oh
was
yeah, me too. Me too.
devastated because of,
Yeah.
yeah. But
To be
that
young, gifted, and Black, he said. Like his
yeah,
Howard University commencement speech was like Man, I had to go back and watch it because I was like, this this is real. This hits. Like he used his life really as a testament to his craft
Yeah,
and put his heart and soul into it.
yeah, yeah. And you
Yeah,
see that it has on people when you live your life like that. People can come along with you on your journey and be inspired by what you're doing just by you living authentically. So it's a testament to all of us to try to do that with our own lives as well as live authentically and look at how we can inspire and help the world. So
for
yeah.
sure. For sure. Love that. Okay, so now we're going to go into the speed round. So with these, you could just answer in, one or two words or whatever comes to your mind first. Just real quick answers. You ready?
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right, let's go. What's the last song that you listened to?
Oh, I have to check. I have to check.
It's okay.
Let
You
me.
can check. You can check.
Oh wow. Okay, it's "Wake Up Everybody" by Teddy Pendergrass. So it's a throwback.
Ooh, okay. The last one that I listened to, because I listen to Spotify like every day. My Spotify playlist is it was a throwback by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Keep your head to the sky.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Throwback.
Yes, they are. They just ground me. They ground me.
Yeah.
Okay, finish this sentence. I truly believe that.
Oh, I could finish that in so many ways. I truly believe that everything is going to be okay. I'll say that.
My favorite book is why does everyone do the last author I interviewed, he did the same thing. I'm like, now, sir. Now, sir.
I, I was going to say, oh, but then I was like, that's so arrogant. Uh, Favorite book. Oh, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That's always going to be a classic. The
Okay.
first one, that book, that's what, when I was a kid, that was the book.
Okay.
So
I didn't get into that series.
You
But I
didn't?
think no, I didn't. I was more of a Twilight head.
Well, you're the first person I've ever heard who didn't read Wimpy Kid.
No, I didn't.
That was
I
like
didn't.
that was like the Drake of like reading back in the day. Like
Yeah. Probably
that's
because I
crazy.
was one, because it's like, why read about it? Anyways, in two words, I would tell my younger self too.
In 2 words, protect yourself.
Ooh,
I, I did a good enough job of that. Like mentally speaking, is specifically. I think I'd tell my younger self, protect yourself.
that's deep. Right now, I feel.
Happy, happy, yeah, happy.
Hey, and I'm happy that you joined me today, Micah. Thank you so much for joining me on the Feel Your Feelings podcast. It's truly been an honor speaking to you, and I wish you nothing but success on your path forward. Any way I can help support your journey, let me know. This podcast is an open platform from a Gen Zer to other Gen Zers, and this is why I do it, is to spread y'all's message, honestly. So, and I vibe with it. So, where can my listeners find you?
Well, first I want to say thank you as well for having me. I think
You're
you
welcome.
brought great energy to the podcast that
Thank you.
makes it comfortable for the guests. Um, where can people find me? So I'm on Instagram at Micah Dawanyi, my first and last name. I'm on LinkedIn. Now that's the thing for like professional networking. So I had to get on LinkedIn. Same thing, Micah Dawanyi. And then you can find my digital portfolio at linktree.com/Micah Dawanyi. You can also email me at Dawanyi@outlook.com. So my last name at outlook.com. Or you can message me on social media. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Right. And it's Micah Dawanyi, not Micah Dawanyi, right?
Yeah, the Y silent. Yeah.
Okay, because I listened to you say it on another podcast, and I was like, okay, I got it. It's Micah Dawanyi, not Micah
You did it
Dawanyi, because I
right.
was close to saying Dawanyi,
No, you did it
but
right. You know,
yeah.
people usually first name incorrect, not my last name. People
Really,
usually
how do
say
they
like
say your first name?
I've heard everything. I've heard Mika, Machika, Makaya. I don't think it's 5 letters. It's not that hard to me, but people,
Seriously.
yeah.
Listen, coming from someone with a long last name, I try. I really do my best because it's like no excuse. I'm like, I can't butcher someone else's name because I don't want them to butcher mine. So it's only
It's
fair. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to be a kind person. You feel me? Bye.
Thank you.